Roll. Hi, everybody. I'm Aaron Shea. Welcome to Habitat Galleries. This is our Habitat Now, actually. This is fun. We're going to be discussing something different, but a topic that's all on our mind, which is the future of the medium. And by medium, I mean the future of the glass medium in the art world. I have invited some incredible panel members today to come join this conversation, and I will quickly run through their names to let you know who I have invited. And everybody's obviously here to join in the conversation, including Habitat founder Ferdinand Hampson, who's showing up from Mexico. Hi, Ferd. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Glad you can join us. I didn't expect you to be here, so I'm honored to have you. Artist Peter Bremers. Artist Martin Blank was invited, but he cannot make it today. He may come in if he's feeling up for it. Dan Clayman's working on a big project, so he may show up if he has a minute. Sybil Peretti, same issue. She may come if she has a chance. Morgan Peterson is here. Artist Kimberly Thomas is here. Steve Linn, Tim Tate, and Museum Directors Charles Shepard and Jane Buckman have arrived as well. And we have a last-minute panelist, Krista Israel, who's joining us too, who just won the Sachs Award. Congratulations on that. That is incredible. So let me run through my screen share and talk about our upcoming event that you're all invited to, our our International, which is coming up in late April. Invitations have gone out, so expect it yours soon. If you haven't requested one, make sure to send me one. You can have RSVP online for this event. We can go into more specifics. The new experience, Habitat Home, we're staging a house full of glass, which we've never done before here nearby the gallery. The 12 Jars exhibition is a secondary show we're putting on display. Artists called it Path of Life. 12 artists have been invited to create an exhibition. I'll talk about it more in the future. It's going to be an amazing show. The auction, we just set out the itinerary, so if you want to look at the itinerary, it's posted online, or email me, I'll send you a copy. This includes the artists too. If you don't have an idea of what's going on, just shoot me a message, I'll get you in the loop. Our trip to Seattle happens in May for those who have been waiting 2 years to go, and we have a few slots open. So if anybody who wants to go on the trip, contact Sue and Al Weiner to make sure you have a chance to join us for that. A fun experience. We've been doing trips since the early 90s. Ferd has been on every single one of them, so quite wild. So again, I had some fun today with our Wordle background, as many of you saw, putting people who are in the panel today on this form and put it out online. I just created another one with the very first word I put in my Wordle every day. And those who don't know what Wordle is, it's a game online you play trying to figure out a word. Every day, if my first word is glass, every day, you can believe me or not, but it's on there for sure. So let me stop sharing my little screen right here. And let's invite you all to join me. Sid, good to see you. I'll see you there. Thanks for coming today too. And Fumio, James, Cheryl, everybody. Guys, it's great to have you all, Howard. So we're discussing the topic of the future of the medium glass. And the very first question kind of correlates into our last conversation, which was, what will make things happen for the contemporary glass art world? And in our last conversation, we discussed that having more critics discussing the medium was a very important topic that could help, having more discussion. And if anybody has any comment about that being the first question, you're welcome to join, because we have a few critics, I guess, and I don't really see much overlap when I read online. There's really, really basic writing that I see on blogs or Facebook that isn't really, it's more shiny stuff, just trying to get people's attention. Nothing really in depth comparing to what we really need in the world, which is kind of what we talked about last time. And I can agree, it would be a lot of fun to have some context and people discussing the contemporary glass art world on a different platform in a way. And there should be maybe some kind of platform for this. But let me throw it over to you, Peter. You might have something to say about this too, right off the bat.
Well, what comes up for me was something that Charles Shepard said last time, which I thought was very, very valuable, where he mentioned that basically we need to educate, or the professors need to educate the curators, and I guess also the critics, people who write about glass art, and start looking at glass as in a very important medium. And I thought, Charles, you said that so well, and you really, I had to think about it briefly when you said glass is the material of the 21st century. Well, interestingly enough, we have the Year of Glass called out by the United Nations this year. So Charles is really onto something. And I don't know if you want to make another comment about this, Charles, but please feel free.
I'd love to, Peter. Thank you very much. What we got into in a previous Zoom is the notion that critics and curators and most of the art writers all train in an art history program of some kind.
Yeah.
And art history programs, 99% of them don't include glass or any kind of craft, not even outsider art usually. So in terms of education, you start with a curator who graduates, let's say undergraduate, then graduate school, and they will know nothing about it whatsoever. They'll get hired at a museum or a gallery that knows nothing about it. And so it's a dead end there. The average museum wouldn't have any curator that knows glass, for example. And I've spent in the last 3 years so many phone calls trying to find writers to write about glass at our summer glass shows and our growing collection. And everybody I ask says, I couldn't do that. And we pay well. An essay is $3,000 to $5,000 for, give me 1,000, 1,200 words. No, I don't even want to try it.
Yeah. Well, can I say something? One of the things is that if glass needs to enter into the mainstream of the art world, there are two sections of working in glass. There's decorative arts and there's fine arts. And if somebody is in the fine arts, they have to stop calling themselves a glass artist and start calling themselves a sculptor, and come up against sculptors who work in all other materials. Right. And because the glass world for the last 50 years has isolated itself and become very insular, it's difficult now to break out. It can be done and it should be done without any question. But one of the things that is important is that glass as a material has to enter into the public space. Sculpture that's in large public space, like Herb Babcock's piece that's been installed by the hospital in Michigan, I think, and things like that. And I think it's really important that as artists, we now define ourselves as artists, as sculptors, not as glass artists.
Gotcha,
and
Steve.
we use the material, and the material is fantastic, and there's no denying that. But the isolation of the material has caused this lack of criticism, this lack of publicity, this lack of using it in the public art world.
Jane, do you have a comment to add to that, or your thoughts about that?
I agree with all of it. I think that our challenge at Imagine Museum, and we're changing, I have to think about the audience, how we educate the audience about the work that we have in the museum. And many of you have been to the museum, and some of you even recently. So you can see how we are progressing. But right now we're using language, contemporary glass art. Our goal will be to, as we evolve, have it be contemporary art with a focus on the medium of glass or with the material of glass. Just watching how people respond to the work. They know nothing about studio glass. They know nothing about, this debate that we're having. They just really are responding to the sculpture, the variety, the concepts, the various ways that glass is used in creating sculpture. So we have a fresh audience, and my goal is really to have them see it as just the contemporary art that it is, is focused on this material of glass, and we give them every reason to be wowed by the material. And so that's kind of how we're presenting it and moving forward. We really want to be in the 21st century. We don't want to be in the 20th century. We don't need to go back. We can tell the story, but we're developing new audiences and really acquaint, you know, in St. Pete, people go to the Chihuly, so they know Dale, right? So that's all that they know about the medium of glass or glass art. And then they see everything at Imagine. And then they see it in a totally different light than, you know, so much more beyond than what Chihuly is. So I think the education, I think you're right. My question when you talk about the critics, who would be the critics? Because I don't have an answer to this. Who would be the critics that you would like to write about glass art?
Charles, you want to comment or?
Can I add something,
Sure,
Aaron, to
yeah.
what Jane's saying is that there's kind of a back door into this problem in the education realm. The back door is who writes the textbooks. Now, if you made a list of the probably less than 12 people who are writing the primary textbooks for Art 101, Art 102, it used to always be Jansen or Gardner. There are a number of other people doing it now. They're younger. Now, why would they do it? How would we convince them? Here's why they do it. If you added glass to your normal textbook and did a new edition with glass in it, you sell more textbooks. And that's, you're going to be, if you could get a standard art history textbook writer to go for that, then what's going to happen is thousands of those books will be published, tens of thousands, and they'll be in the hands of students in Art History 101 and 102. And that's going to make other writers want to update their book. So it will enter the curriculum. And in the curriculum, you're going to find art studio people who get turned on to glass, but you're going to find people that want to go into art history, and to earn a side gig, they're going to write criticism. And that's when glass gets serious people talking about it in serious ways. And it's sort of like the authors and the professors would be motivated because they're going to get paid again.
Gotcha. That's a very good point, Charles. I like that a lot.
One possibility is for a group of people who are prominent collectors to endow a chair, not a chair or a position at an art institution to promote this kind of criticism, so that somebody would be actually teaching the history of sculpture, which includes glass art. Don't just teach glass art, because then you're continuing to isolate it. But if you endow a chair with somebody who is specifically involved in adding this material to their discussion, then people will come out of that program with a background in it.
I think you make a very important point, Steve, because, you know, people don't write about bronze sculpture. They don't write about marble sculpture. They write about all the different media that are used within sculpture. So I agree with you that it would be absolutely of the utmost importance that glass is just, and I say just in capitals, just being seen as another medium, in the sense that it is a very interesting medium with endless possibilities that none of the other materials have. So in that sense, yes, it's special, but at the same time, I agree with you, Steve, that it needs to be incorporated into the larger sculpture discussion, and the writings and the curators and all of that needs to be, you know, on terms with that.
it's not just comparing glass sculpture to glass sculpture.
Right.
When you're making a discussion, it's comparing glass sculpture to bronze sculpture, to wood sculpture, to multimedia sculpture, to all of it.
So
I would love-
I
Go ahead, Jane.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jane.
I just have a couple of comments. You know, my background has been in higher education in the arts, so there's lots of suggestions about that and change the books. Ferd and I have had conversations about this because even as I inquire about this material, it seems like right now it is more of a footnote, and it is that we have to create that chapter. So there still is more recognition about the sculpture that's made from the material. And I think that that is changing in the 21st century, and that is good. When you talk about books or textbooks or how people learn in higher education now, you know, everything is digital. You talk about endowed chairs. If you really are thinking, and most fine art programs in higher education are losing students and are shrinking. And so the capacity even to have a furnace and to teach glass, as you know, I mean, you can come down here and Sarasota, Ringling has a whole glass shop that the Bash is made, and they don't fire the furnace because it's too expensive. So when you really, and so you understand that there is this expense and this cost to it, which again, talking to other museums, I don't think there is much of a debate between the craft and the art. I think any discerning person looking at visual art objects in the 21st century can't look at a Peter Bremers or Steve Linn and not see it as a piece of contemporary fine art sculpture. What I hear is, you're right, what you were saying, Charles, about you have to get a curator, you have to have different storage, you have to have different handlers. And so when you look at all these things, there are additional expenses that institutions have to take on in order to work with this material. And so that's just, which I find very fascinating. We talk about the 21st century. I love to see, I know Hannah is on this video. I love to see how people are working with the material so that it is not as costly, but they're still creating beautiful works in new and exciting ways that might not really need the furnace. So there's more flexibility about how the material gets managed. So those are just things in my observation.
Those are great points, Jane. Great points, Jane. Tim, you have a comment?
You know, I'm going to disagree. So I'm sorry about that for everybody. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone here, but I've heard this for 15 years from all of you. And I'm going to tell you, it hasn't changed in our group. But if you go to the international art fairs, to the overseas museum, glass is everywhere. It passed by everybody in this place and is completely current in the art world right this second. We self-isolate by determining the venue we show our work. So I agree with Steve on this. That self-isolation goes beyond calling ourselves glass artists. And it goes into which galleries you show, where the gallery shows. If you go to SOFA all the time and then go, oh my God, I can't believe no one in the fine art world is taking me seriously, that is the problem. And I don't think it's a matter of education. My God, if we had a dollar for every word all of us have said about the same topic, that we just need critics. And by the way, Bill Warmus, wherever he is turning over and is not grave yet, because he has written an article, 100 critical articles written in the last 5 years. So
Yeah.
We keep always going to this point where if only people understood studio glass or glass, and I don't think that's what it is. I think in the beginning of studio glass, it was intentionally self-isolating, and now we are reaping those benefits.
And the
And the
same
people that are in
concept.
glass
And the
What?
same concept of what you're talking about, Tim, there's so many artists that I've seen who have dabbled in glass without knowing about it. They've been coming from other mediums and dabbling it and showing it with their own work too. Like the example we keep bringing up is Ai Weiwei, making those giant pieces out of glass we saw, and he's not in the community at all. He just found some amazing things and made from it. And so that's a relevant point. I must.
Well, I did want to make this one point. Everyone says, well, so they don't even know, the only name they know is Chihuly, and everybody acts like if we tell them the people in this room, then they'll be edified. Everybody in this room, I give you 40 names showing right now that you don't know.
Right.
I can give you names from before the studio glass movement, like Larry Bell and Chris Wilmarth,
Yes.
you know, who
Yes.
worked in glass and had no notion that there was a glass world. I worked in glass for 10 years before I ever heard of Habitat Gallery. I showed at Louis Mizell in New York.
All of us have shown outside of the studio glass, but what we're arguing
before it.
So have I. I came from the fine art world, and Maureen Littleton found me. I'm just saying, it's not that we haven't here shown outside of the glass, but we all found it financially advantageous to go to the glass fit, and also it's a safe world where we knew everybody in it, and it was easy to do. Now we're asking for all of us to do a very difficult thing, and that would be for the errands to show not at SOFA, but down in Miami, or it would be to have all of us look at our galleries and maybe diversify those galleries, or even a glass gallery to say, you know what, we're going to take on a few other things besides glass, and just start moving in that direction instead of hoping people are going to move to us. We have got to move to them. That's there it is. I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thoroughly agree with you.
Thank you, Tim, for holding that in and then throwing it all out there. I appreciate it. This Jane gave me a great transition to the next question, but I'll just continue it on right now. This will be.
Can I quickly? Sorry to interrupt,
Sure,
Aaron.
Peter.
Can I quickly respond to Tim? Because Tim, the last thing you said is to me the most essential thing. We have to move towards them and not the other way around. I totally agree with you. The thing is that means that galleries will have to open their doors to us. And I'm talking more than one gallery in Italy who's been very, very successful in attracting non-glass artists and giving them glass and making lots of things that are now being shown around the world. I mean,
I'm not talking about Barango. I'm not talking about Barango. I'm talking about Lisan Gallery and all the 5,000 galleries that carry, Dan Scully, all the people that are out there. They're out there in galleries right now in New York. They're not just sitting in Italy. They're in London. They're in New York. They're in Hong Kong. Go take a look. They're all over the place. It's not just Barango doing his thing with the people from the Venice Biennale. It's lovely that he is, but it's so far past Barango at this point.
I agree and I disagree, because most of the artists that we see, let's take Ronnie Horn as an example.
Mhm.
The sculptures are phenomenal. I love what she did in glass, but it's one thing she did in glass and she didn't take it any further. Right? So the galleries that show these glass things from Ronnie Horn show the rest of her work. They don't show the glass because it's glass. They show the glass because it's Ronnie Horn. That's where that's where the difference is.
That's true.
I'm very new to this. I've only started working in glass a couple of years ago. And when I started, I heard the term studio glass art, and I didn't understand that. So I asked my mentor, Jason Chakravarty, what does that mean? I had no idea what it meant. And I said, it doesn't make sense to me. It's just a medium. I don't understand. I understand how it started that way, but I don't understand why it's continuing that way, because, and why other galleries don't pick up glass artists, especially because, and I come from a fine art background and just wanted always to work in the medium of glass. And I said to him, I think it gives a stigma that people are afraid of and they don't want to delve into an area they don't know about.
It's true.
That's very true. The education
Very
part
good point.
is it's the same thing I see here at the DIA. We had the Detroit Institute of Art docents come through the gallery to see our exhibition a couple years ago, and they told us they don't go into the glass display at the DAA because they don't know anything about it. No one's taught them anything about the Robinson collection that's on display, so they just don't go in there. And they don't talk to people about it, which is a terrible side of a great museum here located in Michigan.
Well, it's for me, because of my ignorance and my lack of knowledge with glass, I kept asking, well, why can't we do this? And why can't we do that? And because I didn't know enough to know that people didn't do that. So I'm coming from a totally different perspective, I think, because I'm so new.
Me too.
Right. So let's continue on to the second question now for some of the panel members that are here that haven't participated yet, and they can probably answer this question a little better than I can by far. And with people creating, like you mentioned this to Jane, where people are able to create glass artwork and create their artwork without the big facilities, younger people are creating. And Kim and Morgan and Krista and Hannah, maybe you can all answer this. Like when you see people around you and people that you know that are operating in this way, in a non-formal way of creating glass, what are the concepts? What are the inspirations that people around you are using to create their artwork and their multimedia artwork? I guess you'd say a lot of it isn't just glass alone. Let's start with Kim. Do you want to start and make a comment about that?
Sure. So, well, I work in, right now I'm working in a pipe studio. I don't always make pipes, but it seems that most people are just influenced by things that are going on around them, or there are some influences in, studio art. But I think generally like in pipes, I mean, I'm not even really sure. I think it's just what's going on around us right now and how times are changing. And I know that some people are getting into NFTs. Our main source of sharing and, selling work is digitally. So we are, the times have changed since, we first started doing this. And I think people have gotten comfortable and have started making, they have like a certain product at this point that they're selling.
It seems to be like a stake of community where the idea of, like you said, what's relevant going around really has a factor on the work that's created, and it reflects that in a way. We had the talk last week with Danny Coyle, who would get together with friends, and whatever the topic was, they'd create something. Someone think of something. People like Joivacek and others create artwork relevant to what's going on in the world because they're so passionate. John Moran, same kind of thing, where they're creating work about topics that are terrible going on in the world today. There's so many, you can't even imagine. But Morgan Peterson made a left. Krista, do you have any comment about that too? I can unmute you if your audio is working. Let me see if you can join us. Are you working?
I know. Is it working?
Hey, you're going. It's so broken up. I may have to skip you, but we'll come back to you. No worries.
Yes.
But Tim might have a comment about that. Have you seen anything about younger people, what they're working in, especially with the Washington Glass School?
Mostly right now, they're doing things about social justice. All of them are either making work about the war or social justice. That's what they are very interested in. Young people in general, racial equality, sexual equality, they are very opposed to the war. And so they're actually expressing those feelings in their glasswork. So if I was taking a theme of what young people are doing, that's what they were doing. It's old people who are doing NFT.
I think
Mine dropped Monday, so I'm.
I think street art is a big influence on what on what young people are doing these days. I think that like picking up on graffiti and picking up. I mean, I know graffiti is an old thing, but it still evolves and it still changes and it still is kind of what's happening to a lot of young people. And things that they see street art not only being graphic images from the street, but actually happenings in the street. Like Kim was saying, in social circumstances, their neighborhood.
Yep, neighborhood. Morgan, do you have a comment about this too? Love to have you join us. We can't hear you, unfortunately, Morgan. You should try your getting your audio connected. But if you get it connected, just speak on up and join us. Love to have you. You're definitely in the world.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. So my I don't know if you're seeing me, but I'm frozen on my end, like my actual
We can hear
image.
you fine though, so worry not.
Okay. So I really can only speak on my behalf, and I don't describe myself as a glass artist. I'm a sculptor. A lot of ways that I'm able to make new work that is relevant to what I'm doing is through engraving, because I can do it in my own studio. So I'm not using the hot shot, but I'm also in a very different position where I have access to hot glass studios because I work in them professionally. I worked for Dale for years, and that's my full-time job. And then I also work at Pratt Fine Arts. So I have access to all the studios, and I'm in Seattle. So I have that luxury of being around a lot of people that also have studios. Typically my work and any subject matter I tend to engage with is pop culture and political. So what's happening currently is usually how I get inspired to make my work. I'm seeing it a lot more in the younger generation. Right now, I'm currently in Kansas City teaching a class based off true crime. So like the students I'm working with we're storytelling, telling stories about things that happened, horrible things that happened in Kansas City. So we're trying to, thinking outside the box, because I'm not really all that jazzed about the studio glass movement. I don't really, like most of the work. I like sculpture and painting. I love glass as a medium, but I tend to stay away from, functional objects or things that are considered like part of the studio glass movement, even though I make my living, working for another artist that is predominantly known for the studio glass movement. So I feel like I kind of more relate to like what John Moran's making, and who the people who are working in the pipe world, kind of the underground scene, the counterculture. That's what's more attractive to me. So it's like kind of hard to looking at the work that is in museums. I tend to I love it because I love the material, but a lot of time the younger people aren't represented because there's always a hierarchy of, what the names that people know. And, I've been doing this for 21 years. So it's like, even I'm still considered young in that realm. So I don't know. It's, I see a lot of change happening with the younger generation, which I find to be very exciting, and tackling, controversial subject matter and things that have to do with social change and social justice. So I really like seeing that, even if the subject matter is sad, but I think it's necessary. But I think that's also what's going to push glass out of the studio glass movement and into the art world, is the conceptual way of thinking and thinking outside the box.
Thank you, Morgan. I appreciate your insight. That was
Well said.
It was well said, for sure. All right, catch my thoughts now. It's a real grasp of information from Morgan, and that was that, from her perspective, and she sees herself on the outside of it, and she participates as well, but she's using the medium as a form of expression. A lot of the artwork we have in the gallery is actually mixed media. I would say probably probably 90% of it isn't solely glass alone. So as time goes by, the story and narrative change from what people expect. They're still blown away by the glass. And I was when Jane was talking about people coming in the museum and experiencing glass for the first time, they don't know any of this story. They're just coming in and having a great time and having their mind blown and experiencing art as art. And that's kind of a really fun way of approaching it, because, when you're so far in it, like myself, when someone walks in for the first time and wants to experience glass, it's such a great experience and such a great time they're drawn to what they're drawn to, and they're drawn to what they're drawn to at other museums as well, or galleries. And it's fun to just kind of not complicate it. And that's what I think is an important part of the future. Yep. Go ahead.
So as far as movements go, we still are in a contemporary art movement cycle. Conceptual art is popular. And I have been in the fine arts my entire professional career. So I don't come from glass, but I know that individual artists create for different reasons. Their subject matters are different. Some can, want to express beauty. Others want to express political situations or respond. So everybody has a point of view. Every artist has a point of view that they bring to their material to communicate. And my point is that trying to, I get a little confused about what is exactly studio art and what is not studio art, and I've had to research it for the last number of years because I have to speak about it. And so I would just everyone who is engaged in creating, continue to create, find the material that best says what it is that you want to communicate, and stop. And for myself, it's like, I agree that the American studio glass movement kind of put itself in a box. And Ferd would say to me, Jane, it's not a movement. And, Ferd, I'm thinking you're right, and I'm seeing it now, I'm seeing it because this dialogue that goes back and forth, it's just art, and it's three-dimensional art. And if you add electronics to it, it's fourth-dimensional art. It's art. And I know that that's how our audience responds, but they do like the material and how many ways that the material gets expressed and communicated through the various artists. There's a wonderment that goes to it. So that's what I say. Whether the message is positive or the message is just reflecting our society and what it is today, they are moved.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just to throw in an opinion from another perspective on the same topic is, and I guess this is a question for artists. To what extent does the collector and marketability influence what it is you're going to make? Because you do want to sell.
Not at all, never. And I've been doing this for 55 years. I make what I want to make in the size that I want to make it. And you've seen some of these pieces that I did that are 17 feet wide. I didn't think about, is this going to fit in somebody's living room? Hell no.
Jumped on the idea of that concert.
That's
Good answer, Steve.
Yeah,
Steve, you're a rare bird, though.
Bird, how big is the piece that's on your balcony in your house? Huge.
12 feet, yeah.
But, so sometimes it fits someplace.
Yeah. No, that's why I admire you as an artist.
Someone's not muted. Can whoever is trying to
It's
find
Howard.
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 Sorry.
Down, buddy.
My wife asked me a question. I'll eat myself.
I get you, like Howard. That's funny. So somebody else besides Steve Linn.
I know.
Tim, you were saying?
I forgot the question now. Oh my God.
Yes, the question is like, are you creating for the marketability of what your work is?
I think like a lot of us, we have a lot of different markets that we show our work in. We make our work and then we think, oh, that'll go better with this market or another. That way we don't have to decide to make something for one gallery. We just make what we want to make and then dole it out to who might like it.
Yeah,
and with the internet today, by the way, anyone who says I have to make more cobalt blue bases because Sears is buying them is missing the point. You can do, purple square boxes with dead fish on them, and if you put them online, you'll find a group of people who have just been waiting for that purple box with dead fish. So you don't have to do that anymore because the internet is self-regulating, and that you'll find your own audience. There we go.
So who's gonna make the purple fish? I mean, so over the pandemic, some artists have been collaborating and creating work while sitting at home with each other, thanks to the advancements of technology like the Zoom thing we're on now, and the ability to obviously work from home. people have been creating artwork and collaborating more. Has anybody who is an artist in the room, has the technology during the pandemic allowed you to create in ways you haven't created in the past? I guess is a great question, because you've adapted what you've done because of how you've been so stuck like everybody over this pandemic. Chime in, anybody, feel free.
For the most part, I don't see that we've been stuck. We've been stuck not having shows. We've been stuck not having exhibitions. But other than the first month or two when a lot of the suppliers were closed, materials have been readily available. Work seems to continue normally.
Good to hear. And then, like, there was some work that was created during the pandemic. Artist Michael Janis and his partner Tony Porto started working on a new exhibition, which they did for Not Grandma's Glass, of glass mixed with superheroes. And this entirely came out of being stuck at home, and they were mailing each other the pieces of art so they can modify it back and forth, which was kind of an interesting thing. The technology, and today they could show each other what they're working on via Zoom, was allowing them to continue the process. That brings me to my next question, because that question died. Recently, there's multiple ways of buying artwork that have appeared online, and many of you have seen a few of these, which have been quite confusing in a way, but I guess there's a future of everything. The most recent one I discovered, and you may know StockX, you may know a few other ones, but the most recent one I discovered is called Rally. And Rally is an app which allows you to buy a stock, in quotes, shares, in quotes, of a percentage of something. So let's say, if for them right now they do collectibles, but they would do the first copy of Batman comic book, and they sell shares to people to purchase a percentage of that comic book stored somewhere, who knows where. Now, it's way out there, but is there value in that? Is there value in creating something and selling a percentage of it out there in the real world to people who don't really want to own the thing? Now, this is a very weird topic to talk about, but I want to bring it up because it exists. Someone actually paid the money to create this app to start doing this because they see value in it. Let me throw it to Tim.
I don't know if anyone knows that particular one, but let's look at NFTs, right? And in a sense, it's the same type of thing. People can do that. So I decided a few months ago, I'm sick of wondering if it's going to work. So I hired a firm at great expense. I'll be happy to give the person anybody. And they've been putting out ads on Instagram and on all the different apps. They've been putting out ads all about how wonderful it is to have art connected to NFTs, and that's the best art. And as they put these articles out all the time, everyone who clicked on it or liked it or asked for more information, they keep as a body of things to mail to. So now, starting Monday, and for the next month, they send out saying, oh, the best one in the world to get is Tim Tate and his NFTs. So I will let you all know how that worked. And I'll tell you how much I made or lost. At that point, it's who can say?
Right. In this social media world, people are constantly told what the next hot thing is. And it's very interesting to perceive that kind of marketing because they keep doing it. Is it working? Are they saying this is a new hot song by Rihanna? This is a new hot, advertisement or car. They're constantly told over and over again. And it seems like this decision is made for them before they even had a chance to decide. And it's interesting to put my head around it, because it feels like a lot of garbage is being shoveled in front of us, especially on social media, because the people like Tim have paid for them to shovel it in front of us.
NFTs in Russia have gone through the roof because no one wants to get the ruble because they know it's going to crash and burn a bit. However, in America, NFTs are not doing as well. So we're going to, because of the war itself. So we're going to discover how that, instability in the financial market will also affect that. I expect to tell you a tale of woe in a month, but I'll let you know exactly how that worked for anybody. It was my way of monetizing, 40 years of working in glass, and we're Yeah, if anyone ever wants to talk to me more at length, I will be happy to talk to them sometime.
We'll
I
catch
think
up on an update.
NFTs
Tim.
and- Oh, sorry. I
Go
think
ahead.
NFTs are going to have to become popular with tech savvy people first. And once that really, really catches on with them, then mainstream will come in. But right now, I don't think that it's going to be that big as fast as people are saying. I think it's going to take time, just like everything else that has excelled in our lifetime has taken.
The thing about it is like the digital currency, it's not going away. So
No,
it's
there's billions of dollars already in.
right. It's the trick of it is it's not going away. So with time, like everything else, it'll gain attention, I suspect. And more attention will be like, I think there's a full-blown I mentioned in my question, there's a full-blown NFT museum that opened up in Seattle that only has NFTs on the wall. And what that means is they have TVs all over the museum that show NFT digital artwork. And I don't know.
Interesting to see who goes and views that.
I mean,
Who's interested.
I go
Yeah.
check it out just to see what it's like. And I suspect it's real easy to change the exhibition. It's done.
There are whole galleries in New York.
Somehow I can't understand how anybody would prefer that to seeing Donatello's David in the Bargello Museum. And
I don't think that's their choice. I think they take the David. Just gonna guess. They're not NFT.
I mean, as far as digital imagery, you just go on the internet and you can see, tons and tons and tons of art, but it has nothing to do with seeing art up close, in person, looking at it directly, seeing brushstrokes, seeing the way masters worked.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not collecting it for the art, so to speak, in a way. I mean, sort of, but not really.
Investment.
They're collecting the address in the blockchain. It took me a month and a half of sitting with these people to understand what it was, but it's way too big a topic for everybody here, and we're on a different topic anyway. But again, I'll talk to anybody who wants to know. It's crazy.
If anyone is interested in looking into this topic further, I know nothing about it, but I have a knowledgeable friend who you guys can follow named Sebastian Arazeris or Sebastian E. And if you follow him on Instagram, he's a very important artist in New York. He's a very big name. And he just released a movie called The Art of Making It, which is talking a lot about this. He's kind of on the forefront, I think, of the future of art, where art is going. He's working on all different platforms, but on his YouTube channel, on his Instagram channel, he has some very in-depth philosophy about NFTs and all things the future of art. And I just want to put that out there. I'll maybe put it in the chat so you guys can look it up later, but I really find him to be an incredible resource. He's working with the world's leading tech on all fields, including 3D printing, NFTs. He just made a series of diamonds where his NFT diamonds sell for the same price as actual diamonds. And it's no small thing. He's really doing it. So I'll put that in the chats and I'll just leave it there.
Thanks,
Great,
Josh.
thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Again, rolling back to the future of the medium, and we can kind of get closer to wrapping this conversation up, which I've really enjoyed. Take some time to learn about, some of the artists that are out of your radar, some people that are coming up and what they're working on, because the people that are, coming up in the schools and creating with mentors are creating some work that is so different from what Habatat has shown in the past. And we did the NGG presentation every single month since 2021, exposing some of these artists, just a limited amount of 12 per year. And it's been amazing. Some of the work has been some of the most powerful stuff I've ever seen, and some emotionally dragging, which is like in depth of my feelings looking at the artwork alone. That's the whole point of what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you feel something in my particular mind. So I invite people to come check that out and share it. Morgan was part of the show. Krista was part of the show. few of the artists here were part of the show. So it's great to touch these artists that I don't know are up and coming that I'm real excited about, because I feel like whether I like it or not, they're gonna be a force in the future. And I've mentioned that before with talking about the NGG show, but it's worth mentioning again. But I would like to thank you all for joining me today for this discussion. Did we solve it? Probably not, but I feel that the idea of having this discussion every once in a while is really good. And maybe people will come back to the next one of these with better questions and different topics that we can discuss even further. But it's great to see, the concept of what we all know in our current world and what we don't know outside of our world of people who use the glass art form as a medium of expression without being part of the contemporary glass art world. But thank you again for all joining me today. Thank you to all the panelists that could be here. It was a lot of fun seeing all your faces. And I want you all to have a great Saturday. And feel free to unmute yourself and say goodbye or say hello.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you very much,
everybody.
Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Hey, Peter.
So long, everybody. Have a great week.
Hi, Janet.
Let's see everybody.
You and I were saying the same thing from different ends, so we were in agreement. Hey,
All right.
Too funny, Tim.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend.
Aaron, take
Bye,
it
guys.
easy.
Take care, guys. Have a great one.
Bye.
You too.